Welcome, Leah.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So excited to sit down and chat with
I
you.
know, likewise, I'm so happy to be here.
I feel like I've known you for so long through like the fitness and wellness world. Actually, I feel like your class was the last class I took before COVID lockdown.
Yeah, I remember this. It was
Energy?
at Energy. I feel like it was you and Dale came in for
Yes.
a private session, and there was like this weird feeling in the air where you're like, should we be here working out? What's happening? Is this going to be our last? I mean, it was wild, so
And then it
wild.
was.
And it was.
It pretty much, I mean, that probably was like a super spreader. We actually have no idea
It's
how people didn't all get it in that class. That was a sweaty room.
I know, and we didn't know at the time. So then everyone's like kind of distancing just a tiny bit, but like really wanting to get a workout in. There's like a panic kind of in everybody's faces, myself included, thinking
Yeah.
like, should I be doing this? Should I not? I know that movement is so helpful in times of stress and in times of fear that, I really felt like we should just do one more. We'll go home, we'll assess every day. And then I remember like the very last one was like, okay, this is
That
it. Like,
was
what are we
that.
going to do next? Yeah.
Wow. And so I
Yeah.
feel like obviously you were teaching a lot in person at that time. That's how Dale and I discovered you.
Yeah.
Probably years before that, even.
Yeah. It had been a little while. Yeah.
Definitely taken your class a bunch. And so, really, COVID was like your pivot onto your digital platform, right?
Yeah, I had been teaching in persons a ton. I had a private practice also where I would do a lot of private sessions for a lot of different people before that. And when COVID hit, I had luckily been talking to I would talk to Vimeo about kind of creating an app prior to this, but I was like mostly for my clients and just because everyone travels, especially in New York, everyone's like very transient and all over the place. So I had been having this discussion prior to the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, I immediately was like, okay, maybe this is something that I should explore again. It was actually my husband told me, he was like, this is going to be years. And I really didn't
Wow.
believe him. And he's like kind of always right, which is a little bit obnoxious sometimes, but I
A
love him
blessing
to
and a
death for
curse.
it. Yeah. But he was like, I think this is going to be a really long time. I think this will be a great pivot for you. I had been under the impression of it being a couple weeks. And I was like, I don't know, I'm going to probably be back soon. And then I'm not going to have time to do the app. So I had like met with them again and I was like, okay, you know what? I think this is something, this was kind of like maybe a month in because immediately after that last class in the pandemic, I pivoted immediately to Instagram Live.
I remember that.
It was
You were
like
doing like
day
free
one.
workouts.
It was
Yeah.
free workouts every single day for 6 months. And it was to show up for my existing community, my existing clients who I couldn't take on everybody that had come to my classes or my private sessions.
Right.
I couldn't have taken them all on privately or done like an hour all time because I'm a mom. I had my kids at
Yeah.
home.
It's
We
your
were
whole
trying to
day.
figure it was the whole day. So I was like, I told everybody, I'm like, let's go to Instagram Live. Let's show up here. We'll see what happens. It's funny, like that very first one, my kids at that point had wanted to sleep together in one room, which like freed up a room for us, which was very serendipitous. And I feel very lucky about that. So I
Yeah.
like showed up and I was like, okay, do we do music? Do we not do music? Like the first day it was like music was blaring and everybody was commenting like, I can't hear you. I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So I like turned off the music. I was like, okay, we're silent. And now I'm like, okay, I'm in this like silent room by myself teaching, trying to get an angle where you could see each other. But it was less about like what it looked like. It was more about what it felt like and the fact that we would just show up every day at these specific times. And the community kind of grew from there. And it was very organic in the way that people would, be saying hi to their friends as if they were in class and showing up and just doing this whole, I don't know, like this whole movement together was really all around the world. And so kind of like a couple weeks in, that's when I was like, oh yeah, this app is definitely something that I feel would be really beneficial for a lot of people. It had, people could have access to, I don't know, something that was like previously on Instagram that people already were like, how do I rotate the screen? I can't see this. How do I see this? And I was like, oh, an app gives you a little bit of a different perspective, makes it a little bit clearer. And, I could nail the audio down and all of these things. So then we started to create the app.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
also like Dale and I always said this to each other during COVID because we were basically like putting together schedules of people's free live workouts just to like keep people sane and happy.
Yeah.
And we were so afraid about our income at that time.
Absolutely.
Of course, I'm sure you were too. And like we had just both quit our jobs the year prior. So we
Oh,
were
really?
like,
Was it right then? I didn't
yeah,
know
it was
that.
2018. So
Oh my
it was
gosh. Okay.
fairly fresh. I was like, I had just gone through a breakup. I was living on my own in my apartment for the first time. And I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
all of our brand partners are canceling. But Dale and I said, we were like, what we have to do right now is serve our community. Like
Yeah.
everyone is up in the air. Everyone's financial situation is a question mark. How can we just show up for people? And I feel like, and we were like, this will pay off. This is good karma. It will pay off. And I feel like that's exactly what you did too. And it ended up turning into a huge app and brand.
Yeah, it's the trust also. I think the thing that I like found, especially like when you're saying like you put together these things for your community, it's like people come to you because they trust what you're providing, they trust what you were putting out, they trust the conversations you're having. Same thing goes with like my method. It was like people were like, okay, I trust that you're going to take care of us. I trust that like you're going to use this language that hopefully will be beneficial. I think there's so many different pieces that kind of come together. Yeah, I don't know.
Totally. So did you always see yourself being in fitness? Were you a dancer before? I literally don't know this. I just get dancer energy from you.
I was a dancer my whole life, actually up until college. I started off with ballet. I loved it.
In Hawaii?
In Hawaii, yeah. I actually doing ballet, I felt it to be a little bit too rigid for me. So I would like be the one that showed up in, like a black leotard and my hair in a ponytail. And my teacher would be like, you're supposed to be wearing pink and a bun. And I was like, but you're like, no, like this feels a little bit better for me. And I actually had like a ballet teacher. She was like, you should explore jazz and hip hop, like very kindly being like, I think this might
nudging
be.
you.
Yeah. And she was like totally right. So the second I found jazz and hip hop and things that like I could be a little bit more expressive with my body and kind of dive in and go off of like I don't know, feeling like it had this like energy of like not so rigid, more fluid.
Yeah.
And I just started, doing that pretty regularly all the way throughout college where, at the end of college, I had to make kind of a decision. I was like, do I want to continue? I was a dance minor. And I was like, I don't think dance is going to necessarily be my entire life. I know my skill level. I'm pretty aware that like I could not be a professional dancer. So I was like, I'm just going to like let that piece go.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, I was a dancer. I feel like my method has a lot of dance influence and also being in Hawaii and spending a lot of time in the water. So there's a lot of like swimming elements and that kind of ocean feel of like creating resistance as if you're in something denser than space. Like all these things are very... they kind of molded, I guess, my method today. So
it's really cool. And you can totally feel it in your method.
Great.
I love how different and connected to your body your method is. And I feel like over the last few years, I've seen this shift in your social media specifically around that. And you've got these like kind of sexy, edgy videos with these like points that like are not what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that approach and like how it plays out in your movement and work?
Yeah, I think, I turned 40 a couple years ago, and I think that there was a moment, I think when I was kind of growing up and in this world and creating my method and being in a fitness industry that's so saturated with so many people and people doing their own thing. I feel like there were moments where I would be like, oh, I kind of want to be this, and would go in that direction, or I would kind of sample different things. But then I kind of like found this one point where I was like, this is me. This is what I feel comfortable in. I want people to find their own confidence, whatever that may be, and just really be themselves. And I feel like that's kind of where I'm at right now, is feeling confident in my body, really listening to what my body needs, evolving, and never staying kind of stagnant in one way of thinking, but still remaining true to what I believe in. And it just has kind of found this flow. I don't know. 40 was like a big deal. I feel like a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, 40. Or like, even if I think of myself when I was younger, like I had at one point found this letter I wrote to my dad, and it was like, happy 40th. Oh my God, you're so old. Like, it was like one of those things. And I remember like when I was younger, I was like, oh my God, 40 feels so old. And then when I got there, I was like, oh my God, I love 40. What a great feeling of just, I don't know, it feels like everything kind of comes together. And that's where I was like, okay, this is me. This is where I feel comfortable. This is where I feel confident. And I feel like with social media, it's the same thing that I feel like you really put out there too, is you can feel when somebody is really themselves and not trying to be something else. Also being authentic in what you believe in and what you want to put out there, and also who you're sharing with, who is your community. And just being like tapped in, I think like the more I tap into the community of like, whether it is on Instagram or on the app, I mean, there's a lot of blend between the two, but it's like having conversations with real people. I think one thing that stands out with my method is our community is so widespread. Like we have teenagers coming on that are, we have some dancers that are like, oh, I need this strength training for, I actually had a friend who was like, I need my daughter to be doing these types of workouts so that her ankles can be strong, because she grew 5 inches over the summer, and now her body, she's trying to feel her body and really like be, and treat fitness and workouts as like a healthy way to serve your body and not a damaging, piece of it, which I think there's a weird language out there right now where I feel like we're kind of getting into this place where it's like a lot of people are like, you got to do more because of this, and being fed so much on social media of like what we have to do, and being a little less intuitive in our body. But on the alternative, with the young ones that are, in their 20s or their 18s, I say young just because I feel like I'm like right in the middle of that. And then we had somebody come onto live and she was like, it's my 70th birthday.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, happy 70th birthday. This is amazing. We do these Q&As after the live stream. So people come in the community and they talk about their experiences and they share their ages or wherever they're at or how they're feeling that day. And it just humanizes it. It also is so helpful, even for myself to talk to these people that are older than me and learn so much from them, and to learn about, what it really feels like in menopause and perimenopause. And then also the younger ones coming in and being like, oh, what's happening today, with bodies, or what is like the general consensus around fitness for the younger generation? How can I serve that generation too, to, try to actually catch everybody earlier on? Because for myself, when I was in my 20s, I had a terrible relationship with fitness, and the language that was out there was like confusing. Obviously we didn't have social media then too, so there was like a little bit of a difference there. But it's just so beautiful to see people that are younger find this type of exercise and believe in it, and know that like if you are staying consistent, you're listening to your body, you can try not to distract yourself in a way and really like pull yourself inwards, that it can be so helpful the earlier you start. So when you start thinking about these things like the pelvic floor and your spine and your, deep core muscles, as opposed to just the aesthetic, rectus abdominis, which is like the six pack, these things are just they just all help you later on in life. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that I'm always like, you only have to be the method. Like, I think a lot of people love to do other things, but when you do something like this, it's like very supplementary to everything you want to do. So let's say you're a marathon runner, or you're a golfer, or you love to dance or anything like that. When you start folding in some things that are really healthy for your body, you'll be able to do that so much longer. So for me, I'm like, I want to be able to move. I want to be able to do everything that I want to do, long term, which is the goal. Yeah,
it's really about the intention behind what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And even going back to what you said about social media and the way that you're showing up so authentically yourself, people feel that. There is an energy and a magnetism, but there's a through line into working out. And you mentioned that you had a different relationship with fitness before. I really believe, and like I've felt this through my own different like patterns of working out, we'll call it, the intention behind what you're doing matters so much.
Oh, thank you.
If you're doing it to be like, I want to shrink my body, I hate my body, I hate what I ate last night, I swear to God, I see different results in my body. I'm puffier, I'm less toned.
Yes.
I feel more fearful and panicked around like getting the movement in, versus being like, this is something I do out of self-respect. This is because I love my body and it is my temple and it deserves this like nourishing movement that feels really good.
Yeah. And I think it's also about pulling yourself back into connection with your body. I think a lot of people are very disconnected with kind of, or even like you almost don't want to admit what your body is feeling. So, my app is no music. My in-persons are all with music. And I know sometimes people are like, there's no way in hell I am going to work out without music. And I'm like, just try not to distract yourself with a beat or with music, or being in a space that's, you can like kind of look around and take pauses. Like, try really pulling yourself into your body. And also it slows you down in the movements, which then make them more effective. You see better results. You heal your body in a way that you're not going to get injured. And it's really beautiful. It does take a second, like I think, this is why I think my app is so great for home workouts, because you're in your own space already.
Yeah.
And it's easier to flush out the distractions. And I'm going to say that loosely, because sometimes in my house I'm like, look at that, like dirt on the floor, or like there's stuff all over. But I do find that, being in a space that you can pull yourself inwards and you can kind of hear yourself. There's some moments where I'm like, do I hear my heartbeat? Am I like, and when I start to find my mind wandering, which let's say I'm in a live stream, and I talk about these things throughout my live stream where I'm like, oh my God, I just thought about something else I'm going to pull myself back into.
Yep.
So I'm trying to really be very present in my classes as well. So it's like we're all there together feeling certain things. But I like almost don't remember what I just did. I was like, did I work my core? Was I even feeling that muscle? Like you can't necessarily be the most effective in that time that you're working out. So I'm always like starting off like, okay, you said you're going to work out for 30 minutes. Like you're coming in for 30 minutes. Try to be as present as you can in those 30 minutes. And then you'll just feel good the rest of the day. You won't have to think about it. You're not thinking like, oh, should I be doing this? Should I be doing more? You know, for me, like when I stopped dancing, I didn't know at all how to work out because dance was my workout. And I never thought about like, oh, I needed exercise because it was always just filled with like, yeah, dance. I was like, okay, this is like, I know my heart rate's going up. I know my muscles are getting strong and all of these things. And I just kind of like did what all my friends were doing in college. Everyone was, you know, walking on the treadmill. They were like maybe wearing some like hand weights and watching the Food Network channel and chatting and doing all these things. But like, it was so brainless to the point where, you know, let's say you're walking for 30 minutes. And I was like, well, that doesn't feel like enough because I'm not even thinking about what I'm doing. So I'm just like going through the motions. And then you feel like you need more and more time there. I felt like it started this cycle of like, oh, I need to work out for like 3 hours a day in order for it to be beneficial. And that always causes diminishing returns. I was always exhausted, feeling terrible. It would ruin my whole day. And then even in college, I thought about this recently, which is funny. There was like a couple months where I remember going so hardcore in on the treadmill that I'd be so tired that I was like, would just like go back to my room at the end of the day and like do some homework and just like hang out by myself. Like in college, I was like, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be hanging with friends, doing all of these things. I was so young. And I think a lot of it was just like feeling so depleted, or even like planning my treadmill for the next day, being like, oh, I should go to sleep so I can like wake up early and do this.
Do this again.
It's like so awful.
It's bleak.
It's so bleak. And I feel like a lot of people have this same story. And I do think it's also about changing your mind frame. I think that's sometimes the hardest thing is, and I email with people or I DM with people all day long where people are like, how do you get into this mentality? How do I know, or how can I tell myself that these 15 minutes are going to be enough, that this is going to be, you know, it's going to be effective and it's going to do the same as my 2-hour-long workouts. And mostly I'm like, at first I am like, please just try it. Stay consistent for a little bit. Like give yourself a good amount of time to really start to build up, I don't know, this feeling in your body. And I was like, you know, check your energy levels, check how you're feeling for the rest of the day. For me, like I work in the morning, like I do the app, I do all of these different things for like my own job and for my business. And then I have to like do full mom life. Like after this, I'm like taking kids to softball like 30 minutes away and then dropping kids off. Like there's so many, and working at the same time. So you need that level of energy no matter what stage of life you're in. You don't want your workout to be the end of all your energy store for the day. Like it really should be additive. And this is always what I lead in with any of my workouts. I'm like, is this going to be additive to everyone's lives in some capacity, whether it is strength, whether it's mobility, whether it's like the sexual piece of it of like, let's tap into the pelvic floor and get you really, I don't know, knowing how to use these muscles, the back pain, you know, whatever it may be. I want it to always be additive, and knowing like if somebody were to come in today and this is their only thing that they're doing, will this be enough? Will they feel like this can be their workout or their, you know, we have like a sleep series. I'm like, will this help them sleep? Can this be something a little bit relaxing also? You know, the additive piece is really important.
Yeah. I feel everything you're saying so much. And I feel like so many listeners can probably relate to going back to what you said about being in college and like being on the treadmill. I have this horrible vision of myself in my sorority house. There was a single treadmill in the basement.
Oh no. Was everybody fighting
Everyone's
over it?
fighting over that thing, lining up. You're on it for like an hour.
Yeah, easily an hour. Like an hour was like on the low end.
Oh, it was so miserable, but it really does require a reframe to teach yourself that that is not what's best for your body. But by the way, we had like 10 years of programming at that point of like, eat the 100-calorie packs, have the
Absolutely.
lean cuisine for dinner. By the way, that's what I was eating in the sorority house.
Yeah.
Like, it was like 120-calorie pasta dinner.
Yeah, and it's all processed. Your body is so
insane.
inflamed. Like, you'll never see anything. Like, it's not
Horrible.
even, like, you probably just constantly felt bad, inflamed, working out to also have more inflammation. It's like it's a crazy cycle that, you know.
It's interesting because I felt like pre-COVID, I was like finally in my groove with understanding that I didn't need to like beat my body up in the gym.
Yeah.
But then COVID hit and I was alone in my apartment. Like I said, tons of fear around COVID. I was definitely like getting more inflamed. That's when my chronic pain started, which I talk about a lot on here. And I sort of like lost trust with myself again.
Yeah.
Like I was almost on this high horse where I was like, oh, I got it. Like I have such a better relationship with food and fitness and all that. And then like my body kind of swung in the other direction. All of a sudden I was like puffy and I just didn't feel good in my clothes. And I, for a small period of time again, I like lost that confidence in the low and slow kind of vibe when it comes to working out. And I was like, all of a sudden I was running like 7 miles a day. Yeah. Now part of that was because my mental health was struggling and I was like, I just need to like move my body and release this energy. So there was some good piece of it. But then all of a sudden you find yourself like dreading the run. And I fell out of trust with my body. And I say that to share that like, this isn't always linear.
It's never linear. Yeah. And everyone has that same thing. I think a lot of people can really resonate with that also in COVID because you're in your house, whatever that looks like, whether it's a small place, a big place, anything like that, you're losing out on all of the daily activities of everything that you're doing and not thinking about. So you're like constantly, I found that for me, I was like thinking about every little thing because trying to either distract myself from what's going on in the world, which is why like these hours of like, it's funny because I started off, all of my classes prior to COVID were always an hour. And then because I was like, well, it's funny because like the workout atmosphere at that time, it was like every class you booked was like an hour or 55 minutes, right? To give the like 5 minute in between of like going from place to place. So that was my initial thing when I went to Instagram Live. I was like, okay, we're doing an hour, and we would do like this hour amount of time. And then we kind of like scaled back a little bit. We started to do some 45s and some 30s and it's like you forget that it doesn't have to be that much. But I do think that it's hard in those situations to like pull yourself back into, I don't know, what you believe in or what you want to believe in. And I think it's totally okay to find these paths of like, okay, I'm going to skew this way. I'm going to try something new. You know, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I really wanted to try HIIT workouts. And I know you say that you don't necessarily need them, but I wanted to try them. So they go off on this, you know, they try out the HIIT workouts and they come back and they're like, oh, I liked this for this. And I like this for this. And you can do them together. And I think it's just, you know, you're evolving as a human too. And I think it's like being very kind to yourself as you evolve, I think is important too.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely. And I feel like I've found I don't know the exact moment when I went from being like, okay, I need to beat my body up to being like, okay, I can actually like relax into this and love myself and work out in a way that feels really good. I don't feel like there was like a specific turning point for me, but I'm curious what you would say to the person that is, you know, feeling called to a more low impact style of working out.
Yeah.
But they're afraid, they don't trust their body.
Yeah, I always say like you don't have to necessarily make a huge drastic change. You know, let's say it's somebody who's coming, and I don't know if this is going to answer your question. We can kind of do this like twofold, but I think a lot of times when people come to me and they're like, I am used to lifting such heavy weights. How do I go from that to low impact while still getting the benefits that I felt like I found with this, but I was injured, I was inflamed, I was feeling depleted. So I try to get everybody to be like, okay, substitute one workout of your week with my workouts. Don't do like an all or nothing, like a cold turkey, because I think it's like,
not going to feel good.
It's not going to feel good. It's a little bit of a shock. I think mentally it's really hard to make that abrupt jump. Yeah. So I'm like, do a little by little, like find a nice balance of the two. Like when I first found Pilates, the first month I did Pilates, I was still on the treadmill all the time because I was like, no way is this enough. I was like, I'm going to do treadmill and Pilates. Now I'm going to do more. And then I started to feel like, oh, wow, I feel so good after this Pilates class. Yeah. And then I started to kind of fold myself a little bit more away from the gym. I would go to the gym like less amount of days per week. And then it just kind of like found this balance that I felt really good. So I think it's like starting really small. Also just like letting yourself try it. It's not necessarily for everyone. I think sometimes people jump in and they're like, this has to work for me. And I don't think that that's, I don't know, don't think it's like great for you to think that way about yourself, knowing that it's like, I have to make this change. I mean, obviously if you're injured and there's certain things that you like really need to work on for more of a physical therapy standpoint, it's beneficial. But just starting slow, just trying like 1 day, 2 days, folding it in, seeing how you feel also in both ways. You know, a lot of times when you scale back, you'll realize that the workouts that you were loving, maybe you'll love it a little bit more. You'll get a few more results that way too, because you're giving yourself a little bit, I don't know, some variety. Variety is always really important there. Did that answer your question?
Yeah,
is that
absolutely.
Where you're going? Okay.
I think there's like a releasing of control that has to happen.
Totally.
And that's easier said than done, of course.
Absolutely. And this isn't, you know, this doesn't sometimes happen in 1 week. Sometimes people come to me, they're like, I'm a year in, I'm still, you know, I'm still trying to like be kind to my body and know that this is enough. And I'm like, there's no time frame, you know, to give yourself a time frame on when you're going to have this mind shift, I think puts a lot of pressure on yourself. And I think alleviating that pressure of just being like, this is where I'm going to start, and I'm going to go day and I'm going to go day and just keep trying it this way, making changes and making pivots where I need to be. But the time frame of it is really hard. And I think this also is something that I think a lot of people think about with pregnancy and like getting their post-pregnant body back and all of that. I think there's like a time frame where it's like, okay, it's a year in, oh my gosh. But I have people coming to me 5 years after having a child or 10 years after and being like, I still have some diastasis. How do I repair this? And knowing that like bodies are bodies, you know, they're all everyone's gonna do their thing on their own time too.
There's fluidity to all of it,
Absolutely.
Right? And I also can't emphasize enough how important it is to love the workout that you're doing.
100%.
Because something that I spent the last 10 years reviewing different workouts with sweats, and something I've had to sort of like adjust into now this past month, having made that transition to not doing it anymore, is like, I don't have to try out anything anymore. I can actually just do the workouts I love. And so I've been only going to like 2 different studios, doing my virtual classes that I love. And it like, don't get me wrong, I loved reviewing workouts for those 10 years and it's what really lit me up. It's just that I'm now in a phase of life where I'm like, I want to really look forward to and also know exactly what I'm going to get with my workout.
Absolutely.
Because I am too picky to go and be disappointed by someone's music choice or vibe or any of the above. Like, I need that consistent feel-good movement.
Yeah, and this is what a lot of people ask me. They're like, how do you do just your workouts? Like, this is one of my top questions I get. Like, what are your workouts? There's no way you're only doing your method. And when I created...
Imagine you were lying.
Oh my gosh.
That's insane.
Wouldn't that be terrible? Like, how... I could never. No. I would never be able to do that. Like, you would read it in my face. I'm a terrible liar. But part of it is like, I'm like, I love it. I believe in it. It has done wonders for my mental and physical health. And it's something I love. So I show up every day. Like, it doesn't feel like a chore. And if it did start to ever feel like that, I would have to like reassess everything, because it's that same thing where you're doing so many workouts or you're doing it for certain purposes. If it's not feeling good in your body, like you'd probably be able to see it in my face. You'd be like, okay.
Like, wow, Leah's a little tense today.
I know. It's like, I feel like she's telling you to relax your jaw, but her jaw is really tight there.
Yeah, you practice what you preach.
Absolutely. And it's very, very deeply to the point where I'm like telling people all the time, I'm like, no, this is like, I am fully committed to my method. And my method is it's like people label it as Pilates, but it's really not Pilates. It's Pilates inspired. There are elements of Pilates, but there's a lot of this like strength and mobility where we add in weights and we add in things that are very different than traditional Pilates. So it has this variety that's really beautiful, and it can do a lot for you when you pick up on the variety and you do a little bit each day. And I don't know. Clearly, I love it.
The no music thing is blowing me away. I need to like retry because I've only done yours in person with music. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling triggered by the idea of no music, but I feel like when you're triggered in that way, there's a reason, and it's because you need to challenge yourself. Like,
it's
the
hard.
Quiet of that feels difficult, but I know that that's probably something I need then.
It's really interesting. I think a lot of people who feel that way in the beginning end up really loving it
because they like need it the most.
They need it. When I'm filming or I'm doing my live streams, the funniest thing is I'm in my studio by myself, no music, and there is like some moments where I'm like, can I hear myself breathing? And I'm like, okay, let's use the breath. Let's pull yourself inwards. Like, I think when there's no noise, there's no distraction, you start to be aware of where you distract yourself also, and
Yeah.
how you fill the time. And, you know, it can be hugely beneficial in so many different aspects of your life when you really, I don't know, scale back. And if you need music, you can always add music on your own. I think that's the same thing where, like, you know, a lot of times on an app you have to use, oh my gosh, I'm drawing the blank. What is it called? The music that's unlicensed or
Yes, royalty
unlicensed
free.
Royalty free.
Yes, I always struggle with that one.
I was like, there is a word for this. And then sometimes it can get a little like, and then you're like annoyed with the music choice. So I always
elevator is never the move.
I know. So I always tell people, I'm like, if you feel, you know, because sometimes like I have cardio classes on there that I'm like, if that helps you in certain elements and you want to throw in some music here and there, like you can choose your set. And I have some playlists that you can choose from. But ideally, I'm like, let's go barefoot. Let's feel the floor. Let's try to, you know, heal from the ground up and really listen to your body. And there's so many pieces there that are, it's challenging, but it's really beneficial.
I feel like the more that I've done sort of this nervous system regulation work, which I know you talk a lot about, the more I've become aware of how I use things to distract myself.
Yeah.
For example, scrolling on Instagram is a really good like number.
Yeah.
Another thing that I've realized, and I've started to do more like upregulating movement to like release energy before I sit down and meditate to kind of like rid it from my system so it's easier to sit. And the more I've sort of been doing that, the more I've realized what a difficult time I've just had sitting still in general. Like let's say you're on a Zoom call, I would be like on my phone booking my workout for that Friday or like shopping for a bridesmaid's dress.
Totally.
Not because I wasn't interested in the call or paying attention, but because it's easier for my brain to like feel really busy and distracted by other things. And I feel like that ties into what you're talking about with the thoughts popping up during movement and this kind of like pulling ourselves out of the present moment that we tend to do on autopilot.
Yeah. My kids are they've helped me with this one a lot, because I find that being like a small business owner and a mom, a lot of times I'm trying to multitask, and they now are at the age, they're 11 and 9, where they're like, mom, hey mom, can you put your phone down? Can you just, and I'm like, oh wow. Like when they start
they call you out.
They call me out, and then I have to like sit there for a second and be like, does this need to get done? Is this something that like is a task that has to get done right now? If it is, how do I express that to my children so they understand that like I also need to work. I want to be there for them. I want to be able to pick them up at 3. So I'm making these choices to be dabbling in some things. And then sometimes it's just like, oh yeah, no, I don't need to be doing this right now. Or I think that it has to be right in that moment, but they remind me that I can be present and I can really like focus in on whatever it is. It's whether it's them or even work,
Totally.
They just like, it's a good reminder in that sense.
What other ways do you tie nervous system regulation into your day, whether that's through movement or other modalities that you do?
Honestly, when I incorporate this in my workouts, I think this is such a huge driver in the way I program my classes. We really start out with energy, things that are a little bit harder and more challenging, that strength piece. We always end with your nervous system kind of coming down. I feel like I've been in so many classes from, when I was in my 20s, where it's like the last thing is like the push, and you're pushing. And then they're like, okay, we're done. Let's get out of here. And I'm like, but now I'm like this, and I can't, I like go out with that energy. Mine's kind of the complete opposite, where we'll do like a full 25 minutes of like challenge in a way that is challenging, but we're not reading it in our face. We're not tensing in the face. So it's like releasing all of the energy of, let's say, jaw tension or neck tension, or your fingers going like this, or your feet, and letting the flow of your blood and of your circulation and of your breath just kind of fill your body. So even if something becomes challenging, we're not holding on to that tension. So we're kind of like letting it go. So a lot of times it's like, okay, if you're reaching your arm out, I'm like, release the energy like away from the body, like let it kind of flow out. And then ending in a moment that you kind of can pull yourself back into your body. You can listen to your body, whether it's a stretch or just some sort of dynamic stretching type of movement. But I do find that always sets me up for the rest of the day. And I sometimes, and I say this in my live streams, which I'm sure anybody listening to this has done it. I come in sometimes, I'm like, all right, let's go. We got to do this, because when I'm jumping into a live stream, I've come off of like a 5:30 a.m. wake up, lunches, kids, everyone asking me questions. Today it was like my daughter was like, my shoe is not tight enough. Can you help me? And I was like, okay, running to the bus. Like there's this like 2 hours of like really frenetic energy that happens. And then I'm like, okay, I got to get to the studio. I got to set up my studio space. And then I show up and I'm like, hey guys, let's do it. Like, okay. And then we like jump into class and you can see it, like you can kind of see it leave my body, that type of feeling of like, you know, we all get there, right?
Of course.
But we want to try not to hang on to that for the entire day. So my goal with the classes is always to be like, okay, even if we like have this, how do we just give ourselves this moment to breathe, to fill our bodies with the things and the movements and all of these things that we need, get rid of stagnation that sometimes gets stuck. You know, sometimes we're like holding on so tightly that like you feel your shoulders going like this, or you feel your body going like this, or you're like psoas muscle in the front, like all tense and you're like, and everything. You're not using the bathroom, you know. It's like all of these things where like, how do we come in and kind of let that all flow, get your body set up, and then carry that energy throughout the day. Obviously it ebbs and flows depending on the day. Some days I'm like, okay, I need to, you know, do something a little bit later on. In those moments, what I'll do is we have you know, it's like a small stability ball. I'll lay over it. I put it on my shoulder blades and just gyrate myself. I'm like staring at the ceiling. I'll close my eyes. You can put it underneath your tailbone. It really is like this immediate, you like can't hold tension in that moment. You have to just let yourself be. And I think that's like a great way at the end of the day, if you're like, oh, I've done my workouts, I feel my nervous system calm, but at the end I kind of like started feeling that again. How do I, you know, release in that way, which is really cool.
Yeah, the releasing is so important.
Yeah.
As you're talking about like tensing up during workouts and things like that, it's making me think about the pelvic floor, which I know that you focus on a lot.
Yeah, hugely.
Can you talk a little bit more about why the pelvic floor matters, how that all relates into sexual health and things like that too?
Yeah, I mean, the pelvic floor is a hammock of muscles that you can't see. So I think a lot of times people kind of forget that it even is there and that it's important because you can't see it. You can't necessarily feel it. It's sometimes really hard to activate also. So it takes time to really, you know, get comfortable with your pelvic floor, partially because it's in a sexual region that women especially, we have this like, you know, we have a relationship with our hips, whether it's like, you know, the tightness in the hips from trauma or whatever it may be, periods, you know, all kinds of stuff. We're talking about the PCOS right now and endometriosis. But it's such an important muscle for so many different things. It really holds and stabilizes your entire body. And without pelvic floor health, you can start to feel, I mean, it like the list is like literally endless. It's like lower back pain, hip pain, pain when you're having sex. It can be like incontinence, you know, where you're peeing a little bit. And so part of the pelvic floor that I think gets lost in fitness is we're so focused on this like crunching, getting your abs, like, you know, doing these movements, like all these core exercises that are actually hugely damaging on your pelvic floor. So I work in the neutral pelvis always in all my classes. Obviously we do some things in flexion where we roll through the spine, but when we're doing core work, it's really about finding your spine in its natural state. And that looks different for everybody. So I think a lot of times people come in and they're like, well, this person looks like they're tucking versus like somebody arching their spine, but it's really just finding like your natural curve of the body. And then that when you do core, it helps you to activate the pelvic floor, but also release. So what I'm finding is the narrative out there right now with pelvic floor, it's starting to change a little bit, but it's always like strengthen your pelvic floor, strengthen your pelvic floor. And what I'm seeing is people putting so much of an emphasis on strengthening the pelvic floor that they can't release it. It's tight. It's wound up. I mean, I can't tell you. Hypertonic. I can't tell you how many people now come to me being like, it is too tight. How do I release it? It's funny.
Now we have the opposite problem. Because people go so hard.
They go so hard. And also it's like, it's just, you know, it can tighten in ways that are not helpful. Obviously we want to be able to move, like we want to be able to work the muscle. I feel like this is where the video, I'm always like this. But we want to be able to like use it in all functionalities. And I think that's where the sexual health comes in. It's like, we want to get blood flow there. We want to tap into the pelvic floor. I think some people are like, they can't, find it, or they've never been able to find it. So it's like, we want to bring awareness, we want to bring blood flow, we want to bring that energy there and that strength and that stretch to be able to just like get comfortable with that section of our bodies. And it becomes a little bit in the beginning. I have some classes that are very specific on like how to activate the pelvic floor, also how to stretch the pelvic floor, you know, both of these things. But in the beginning, it starts to feel a little bit like I'm constantly thinking about how to engage and then release and engage and release. And it's so challenging in that way. And then it becomes a little bit more second nature as you're working out.
I do really think that even just awareness itself kind of allows for that flow of energy. Like, as it pertains to sexual health even too.
Totally.
It's like when you're stopped up and you're really tight and tense and or you're not even like aware of it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the last thing you're thinking about is intimacy.
Absolutely. It's a little bit of a blockage, you know. Everyone has such a different relationship with their hips in that area. And I think it's like very empowering also to take control over that area. I get a lot of people that are like, I've never tapped into my lower abdominals. Like I really, or somebody comes in with a more aesthetic approach being like, I have a little lower belly pooch. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to be doing. And it's not necessarily being like, let's target fat there, which you can't do first off, but we're not going to like target this one area and get you working it. Yeah. I'm like, let's start with the pelvic floor. Let's start with your hips. Let's start with the positioning of the body and just starting to get a feeling there. I think sometimes we kind of like block a feeling there if you're having any trauma there. And it doesn't have to necessarily be huge trauma, right? It could be just like, I have heavy periods, or I am bloated all the time, or I have constipation. Like there's so many different things. And I think it's just like, the more we can start to have control over that muscle, understand what it is, how it's connected to so many different things of the body, you know, the hips, the glutes, all these things, everything kind of pulls together. So I always want to, you know, with my classes and my verbiage and everything, I'm like, let's not overwork anything and let's not underwork anything. So let's make sure that everything kind of has its place. And then it just all falls together.
How does everything that you're talking about tie into constipation? Because I feel like if there's one thing that I drop at a dinner table of a group of girls that almost every single person will raise their hand to, it is that.
Is constipation? Everyone's like, we're constipated?
Yeah, everyone's like, we can't go to the bathroom. Or like, I'm traveling with my partner, I can't go. And obviously there is such a mind-body connection that's happening there.
Absolutely. Once you say that out loud, sometimes it's like, oh, I'm not going to use the bathroom ever again.
Ever. Literally ever.
Yeah. There's so many things here. I do a lot of gut health work. Part of it is like increasing motility in that area and getting your digestion moving, which obviously, you know, there's a food element that also plays into it too, but it is a muscle there, you know, and like your muscles can do a lot of the work for you. So we have I call them gut reset. They're gut resets classes basically. And it really helps you to let go of some things that may be stuck there. It's like you can't hold tension there. So a lot of it is the release of the pelvic floor. It's the mobilizing of the hips. It's, you know, I could go on and on about that. I really like, this is where I feel like it is my bread and butter. People love these classes so much, these gut reset classes.
I'm like, I need to do one.
They're amazing. And it's funny because a lot of times people will be commenting like, thank you for the bathroom break after, or people like pause and go to the bathroom in between. And I do a gut massage laying on top of the ball. That's really amazing, where you kind of feel your heartbeat in your gut. But it is that same mind body thing of like, we're tapping in, we're finding, we're finding some blood flow there too. I'm going to keep like saying that because it is super important. I think we have like a lot of stagnation in the body that needs to be, released.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not even just like, oh, I can't use the bathroom because I ate this or I haven't moved my body. Like sometimes it actually is like the pelvic floor might be too tight, causing you to not be able to release, like you're holding it in so much. So it's almost scaling back to be like, okay, what led me to this point? What workouts have I been doing? Travel is like a whole different beast too, which is why I'm like, if you're traveling and can't use the bathroom, gut reset classes are for you, because those do the job when it's like travel related. But if this is like a longer term issue, there's, doing some hip openers, focusing on the pelvic floor. Also knowing like, keep at it. It's like progress. We're going to keep folding in movements and stuff that do help. HIIT workouts aren't great for the pelvic floor and not great for constipation and things like that too. So if you are really going hard on your workouts and you're finding yourself doing a little bit like, or having a little bit of a harder time, I think scaling back a little bit on that, Yeah.
Okay. So you've mentioned kind of people being really tense during workouts and like over tightening their pelvic floor.
Yeah.
HIIT workouts can also be kind of a question mark. What are any other common workout mistakes that you see women making? I know you did a reel on this recently.
Yeah, not resting and recovering your body. I think we're always like, we want to go, go, go. And especially with a workout that feels so good. Like I tell people this all the time. They're like, but it feels so good. I want to be able to do something every day because it does X, Y, and Z for whether it's your mental or your physical or whatever it may be. You have to prioritize recovery, and recovery doesn't have to look like, okay, we're laying flat on the couch. I think that's where
Reframe.
right. Reframing like what rest and recovery is. Like it just means like we're not pushing ourselves to the level where we're trying to strengthen, we're trying to challenge and push, push, push. It's scaling back to be maybe it's doing a class from like we have like a meditative movement section on the app. Maybe it's doing something a little bit more like that, or a stretching series, or I have like lengthening classes that are a little bit more calming on the nervous system. And sometimes it really is like just go for a walk, do your daily, and don't work out. A lot of time I prioritize my own rest and recovery on the weekends because I'm like, well, my kids, honestly, I have so many things to do with them. I don't have a ton of time on the weekends.
Do you work out? Do you do Be the Method Monday to Friday and then
Monday
Saturday,
to Friday?
Sunday?
Yeah. I mean, it sometimes on the weekend I'll do like a little mini one if I'm like, I really want to do a little something, but I really try to like very, very, highly prioritize at least one full day of rest.
Yep.
And you see it in your body. You see diminishing returns when you just keep going and going and going. Every workout becomes less effective and it actually becomes more damaging for the body, not just for injury, but you're just more tired. You can feel it. Like you can feel your adrenals, leaving your system. There's so much. You really have to replenish yourself. I also see a lot of people prioritizing cardio over strength. And I think that also is not great. I think it has to be a balance. I don't think you have to like eliminate cardio altogether because obviously cardio is super beneficial for so many different things. But I think like overemphasizing cardio, less emphasis on strengthening or mobility. There really is a balance there, which is wonderful. Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm trying to think of all of the things.
What about
that
equipment?
I've talked about.
I feel like a lot of people put a lot of weight, no pun intended, on having a bunch of equipment. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's like keeping it fun and fresh. I think we get, we're like, it's like gadgets, like where you're like, oh, I have this new gadget, I have this new fun thing, and I'm going to try out this, and it keeps you kind of interested. And this is where it's like pulling into the intuitive, like holistic fundamentals of like, you really don't need it all. And a lot of times what the equipment is doing, you can be doing without it. So it sometimes is a little bit of a marketing tool with some of these equipment, new equipment and this and this and this, of just being like kind of just offering something that's already out there, but in a different way. I like to use dumbbells. We use body weight. We use resistance on the floor. The ball is so wonderful.
Yeah, it really is.
It can do so much. It's amazing how it can transform your workouts with like, it feels like a reformer in some ways, and then it adds stability, but then it makes it more challenging because it's spherical. And you just don't need a ton, you really don't need a ton. And I don't know how everybody has these like major gyms with everything everywhere. And like, I'm like, if you walk in, I'm like, how do you know what to do? Also, I feel like sometimes it can be so overwhelming with like, this is for this, and this is for this, and this is for this, when you can kind of, I don't know, think of it more full body. I think we're losing this narrative of like, I really want to work my arm, so I'm just going to do an arm machine, and then I'm going to do this. And you're like, well, there's more pieces that can be involved. And I think when you scale back on the equipment, let it do a little bit less of the work. The equipment too, you have to do the work too. Like even let's say we'll use reformers. I mentioned that, but it's like the spring works in two different directions. You can actually work in one direction and let the spring do it in the opposite direction. Yes. So you have to be aware of that and be using it in all directions in order for it to have that benefit. So when you're doing it on your own, you feel that opposition there, and it can be really cool. Yeah.
I will just say, like, if I'm traveling, you were talking about the ball.
Yeah.
Bringing a ball, a band, and a bala.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally those three things.
You could do so much.
That's all I really need. Yeah. They're the best.
It really is.
And it's so lightweight but challenging, and it just feels good on the body. I love movement that like is challenging, but it goes with the grain.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very anti-classes. I won't name names, but the ones on the machines that go against the grain.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, I think everyone's trying to find the next thing. So it's like, let's combine this with this. Let's try
getting
this.
A little crazy.
This. It's so wild. And it's funny because I see so much of it, and I get people all the time be like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I'm just like, I stay true. I'm not pivoting in that way because I know what works, and I know what this does in the long term. You know, I've been in this industry for 20 years, doing this for so long. And I'm not trying to
reinvent the wheel.
I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not trying to throw gimmicks at you. I think that's where, same thing with like, just, you know, language on Instagram and all that. I'm trying to like bring some awareness to some things that some people aren't talking about or aren't thinking about, but still making it fun, still feeling like you're challenged and you're in a workout. You know, there's some times where it's like, oh, we're not doing physical therapy. Like, it's really like, yes, we're going to think about the pelvic floor and your hip health and all of that, but like, you're not coming in getting, you know, something where it's like, let's just make sure that everything is like this and not having fun, you know? So,
yeah. Having fun is also important.
It's so important. Yeah.
Okay. So I know that people listening are going to want to know a little bit more about your personal health and wellness routine. You're so radiant. You're doing so much as a mom and an entrepreneur. And like, I mean, I know you're working your ass off, but you're also clearly taking really good care of yourself, and it shows. What are some things that you love, whether it's a meal that you like making, skincare, routines? Like, let the girlies know. What do we need to do?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it like ebbs and flows. I'm coming off of a summer of like major indulgence. My kids went to sleepaway camp for the first time this year, and like my husband and I were like, we are going on adult summer camp. We went to Ibiza. We went did all this travel. We did not cook at home for a solid 6 weeks because then we went to like family trips after.
Yeah.
And coming back into September, I was like, okay, this is like, I want to feel good in my body again. I want to stick to routines. I love routines. I love spontaneity as well. I think it's really important to add that mix. But there are certain things that I'm like, this makes me feel so good. One thing is like always waking up before everybody. I'm like, I am the first person awake, whether it's like if I have to wake up even earlier, just having a little bit of a moment to myself to just wake up and not talk, not open my mouth. Just like, you know, sit just with myself. I drink like a chlorophyll water every morning, like religiously for years, because I know that like if I drink caffeine first, it dehydrates me. But weirdly, if I drink this thing before, I'm like staying really nice and hydrated first thing, and I'll have my coffee. I love an ice roller. Like that is like there. It's funny. It sounds when I say it out loud, I'm like, it sounds so basic, but there are certain things that I'm like,
there's a reason a lot of these are in a lot of people's routines.
Absolutely. Like that moment to myself doing like X, Y, and Z in this like little order, and then everyone wakes up and I just know that I've had a little bit of moment to myself is hugely important. Being present, I feel like when I start to see myself not be present in everything I'm doing, that's where things start to get a little crazy, and I get a little bit like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, and I just feel less connected to myself and to others. So just like really being present in everything I'm doing, whether it is like work, whether it's like with my kids or with my husband or my friends, making time for fun always, like knowing that like if there's no fun, it really things I can get like a little rigid, and like even like with my kids, I'm like, okay, dinner is at this time, like bedtime is at this time, and just like having some fluidity there. My God, I feel like there's so many things. I've been trying to like eat a lot of whole foods right now. I'm trying to eat a little bit less packaged foods, which I feel like it feels so simple and so hard, but it really makes a huge impact.
Like, what are you making for dinner this week, for example? I personally, selfishly asking because I also have been traveling a bunch, and I'm like, I am craving a home cooked meal so badly right now. It's insane.
It's really nice too to also have that where you're like, okay, I've been traveling, and then come back and like appreciate that, because it
feels like a reward.
It feels like a reward. I mean, especially being in New York, it's like you have anything accessible. So half the time we're like, oh, let's just order out, or let's just go here. It's just so much easier, and you like forget about these things. But there's like a nice pleasure in also cooking something and going through that. Has like a little bit of a nervous system regulation too. So I find that even like something so simple as cooking at home and making yourself a meal and sitting down and giving yourself that space to eat it, it's like the act of, it's not just the fact that you're eating this, it's like the whole process of, you know, every time we order out, I'm like, okay, I'm just doing it on a whim, it's coming, we're eating, we're like doing that. There loses like the whole nature of
the ritual
of it, like actually fueling you and feeling really good. You know,
it's all about slowing down with intention, right?
Yeah. And you know, there's I'm at this point where the conversations with so many people my age are like, what are you taking? What peptides are you taking? Are you injecting NAD plus? Are you taking these supplements? All of this. And like the language is so wild that I'm like a never say never type of person. I've, the Botoxes, all of these things. Like I won't say like, I will never do this. Like I will definitely do my research on everything. So I feel like that's like my age of like, what's next? And I am like, okay, how many things can I do to kind of get myself there before I go to that step?
Yeah.
So like with NAD, I was like, okay, movement and circadian rhythm alignment and sunlight, like all these things are really beneficial for that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to work out outside. I'm going to do a little bit of this. I love skincare. I love a skincare. I love like my Zip microcurrent every day. That's like, if you want to know like really specifics like that, I'm like, I need a Zip sponsorship because I'm like so obsessed with it, but I like use that, Yeah. No, there's like, yeah.
Beautiful. No, it's the perfect recipe.
I feel like I could make a whole long list. I'm like, maybe I should share this. It's a good one, but
yeah, make a reel on that.
I love to I love to hear everybody else too. And I think it's really, and I think you do this so wonderfully too, is like, there's no gatekeeping of anything. If anybody's going to ask me anything, will share 100%. So with this, I did a reel on NAD plus. I was like, okay, boosting NAD without injectables. Like, is this possible? And like, I literally lead with like, I'm not like, while I'm trying to figure out if I want to inject NAD because I'm like, it's definitely on my mind. I have a lot of friends doing it. They're like, their energy levels are wonderful and all of these things. I'm like, well, I'm thinking about this. Here are some ways to do it. But just like having these authentic conversations, not gatekeeping, sharing the things that work for you with obviously not going to work for everybody necessarily. But I think I don't know, like with this day and age with like AI and everything too, it's so hard to sift through like what's real, what are people doing? And then it just, I think about my girls and them growing up in this day and age where I'm like, I hope they can, I hope that they can have everything available.
Yeah. No,
and like be able to sift through it too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lia, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh,
this conversation flew by. I'm like, how is it?
It really did. I know. It's so wild. Thank you so much for having me.
Where can people find you as well as Be the Method?
We have a website, bethemethod.com. There's a ton of information there. And it links out to our app and all of our props that we sell. My handle is Lia Bartha. We have a Be the Method Instagram handle too that we're trying to build up there, and yeah, those are the main places.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.